Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mom Curious podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Rabbani. Today I'm joined by Annalaina Marks, a model, a mother of three, two of which are twins. She's the founder of Full Feedings and is an amazing person. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, but after I had kids, I think I'm like stepping into my like femininity. Like as a woman, I'm a little bit curvier. I don't really care as much. And some people I used to model with girls that had kids and they'd be like, I'm way better shape now that I have children. And because they're not thinking about it, I'd be like, bitch, please. And she looked fantastic. And I was like struggling with eating chicken and, trying to diet and whatever. And I feel so much more confident about my body, which I think helps to kind of when I'm not, I was thinking about it today because I just listened to a podcast about a guy that struggled with his weight for a long time. And it was like, I'm just not thinking about it every day. So I feel way sexier now.
You are super sexy.
Oh my God, than I did before. I have amazing sex. You know what I mean? The whole thing, I'm like, it's just really stepping into my own. But it wasn't always like that. Obviously after I had my kids, and I'm a strict, I can eat, I know how to eat to be the way I want to be. Because it is
And you work out.
Yeah,
I've seen those
out.
dance videos. Oh my God, I love those dance videos. Okay, so sex is better and your body image is better.
I just feel more confident. And I know I'm a good mom. So I feel and that's relative, you know what I mean?
What does good mom mean?
I just feel like I'm there for my kids emotionally, which is very important. And I am there for them, in their individual needs. And I feel like I have shit handled, that they're my priority. I'm not skewed in that, for a long, and I still take care of myself. But my childhood, my mom was a single mom and she didn't have the financial means. So she was always stressed, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I make good money and I'm able to be more relaxed in that. Don't get me wrong, I have anxiety all the time, but
yeah, but normal anxiety.
But just being there, these little people, and really just, it's kind of a shame. So when you're a parent, I feel like sometimes you can have all those slivers of amazing motherhood in those moments, but you're in it, right? You're sometimes on autopilot, you're sometimes not getting to enjoy it. And then maybe when you have grandchildren, that's when you get to have those real moments. But I think those are the ones that matters, those little moments with the kids. And I don't want to read the book, but I'm reading the book. I'm sitting, my daughter's
oh, the nighttime, the
yeah,
story
you're done at night. But I show up, and I'm handling my own personal, emotional journey.
I know. This is how we first connected. So we were at a friend's birthday party. How did it come out that I'm in a 12-step program and it came out so quick.
Yeah. I'm we got to know each other.
We got to know each other.
It moved really fast.
It moved really fast. I loved you from the get.
I think maybe I said something because I use terminology. When someone's using a slogan or something from a 12-step program.
They're very good slogans. One day at a time.
I apply them to my business all the time.
One day at a time. And it's making you money. You're doing really well.
I'm doing really
and helping
well.
People. So tell us about Full Feedings if you can.
Okay, so Full Feedings, I had a doula when my daughter was born, and she was like, you just understand this so well. You understand infant sleep. I don't know why. It's like a gift from God. I don't have any clue. And she was like, you need to write a book. I'm like, yeah. New motherhood. I'm like, okay, I'm drowning over here. Everyone's like, you're doing great. I'm like, I'm fucking drowning. Have you ever seen that meme where it's they're like, no, but you're doing great. And you're like, no, I need help. I know that it looks fine, but I'm drowning. But so she encouraged me to write a book. She's like, you need to share this. And because I found sleep to be very easy to understand, but it wasn't conveyed in a way that helped parents understand that it's flexible, it's not rigid, it's not sleep training, it's not cried out. Then I had my twins. My marriage was literally tanking. I knew that I wasn't going to be getting child support or anything like that. So I was like, I have to do something. And modeling, acting, all that stuff, I love it. It's a passion. But when you have kids, it sometimes you want I always thought I'd be the career mom, which I am. But there's also that part of you that's I really want to be there.
I really want to be there. I have a need. It's not that it's not for them.
No.
Really, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine with whoever is me. I want to be there.
Yeah, because you don't get that time back.
I don't get their time back.
Yeah, but then it's hard, I think, for career.
Yeah.
in business. And it's like, I don't even know that I'd want to like go do a movie shoot for like 2 weeks. I don't even think
I have a friend who just did a 6-week shoot out of town, and it was a great opportunity, and I'm like so proud of her. And it was very, very hard.
It's hard, and
she
it's
had
like
2 kids at home. Like it's not,
so you get torn between that, and then once they get to an age where you're like they're in school, you can't really. I mean, but I don't resent it. You can't go. Like you're not. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt with like the tutors and stuff. You're like, this doesn't work. So anyways, I decided to create Full Feedings. I was like, there's got to be a way to explain sleep to parents in a way. And I made my own method. Like it's pretty unique. It's very gentle. It's not like cry it out or anything like that. And then I made an online program. Actually, Melissa Wood Health was very instrumental in getting me to work on an online kind of platform, whether that was through conversation or just what she was doing, like in her incredible self, like what she was creating for herself. And so I really wanted to create that. It's easily accessible. Like, so I just created this online program and really started, helping parents. Now, before I ever charged anyone money, I was helping parents for free, just making sure that it really worked. And sometimes when I'm having a really bad day, I just go in and read like the thousands of testimonials. I mean, these moms write me, you saved my marriage, you saved my life. Like I was postpartum depression. Like the sleep for me was so vital. For me personally, with my own mental health, I knew with my first, if I wasn't sleeping, I was going to be completely in the gutter in the trash can, 12-step program or not. Like,
no, it doesn't matter how many green juices you have. Like you fucking need sleep. You need sleep.
Yeah. So that really is how it came about. And I needed to support myself like financially. So it kind of it really is the epitome of like, if I judged it, like, did I think I would be teaching parents to get their kids to sleep? No. But like, it's the epitome of like doing what you're good at and putting your passion into it.
And like letting like the muse just flow through you, right?
Yeah.
Like you had a download.
I mean, it's like God is my employer. It's like every day I'm just like, I get like, I don't even know. Like somebody's, I'm like, where is this coming from? But when you find that flow and that groove, like it just, it flows. Like I don't have to do, I'm not going, oh, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to, I want to wake up and help parents and moms. Cause I also felt like, no matter how fantastic your partner is, like,
I mean, when you've grown, and I think you tell me you've worked with more parents than I ever have, but like, and if you've grown a human being in your body, I imagine also if you've adopted someone, like I have, my assistant actually is adopting this beautiful boy from Ghana, and the amount of work and effort, and
I'm sure
she's there for 2 months, like maybe 3 at the end of all this, but like when you've put that much like physical, emotional labor into something, you've already bonded so closely to the child.
When you want support, my point was like you want the support, like the moms need support, and partners don't always offer that.
Well, they didn't necessarily put in the work for the 9 months
to do it.
They don't have the biological imperative to keep it alive.
To go. So I feel like providing that support for moms too is like also a lot of what I do. Cause I'm like, there's these moms that are like, I mean, I get moms that are like, my partner sucks. And then I get moms that are like, my partner wants to help, but we don't know how, like, how can we do, like, it's just supporting moms however they're getting there, or parents however they're getting there. Kind of providing that support for parents too is important, because it's like you go through and you're like, you're not getting any accolade for it really. I mean, you get your children's love, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is, but it's not like if you were at work and you were getting paid and you were getting a promotion and it's not the same. It's like so private, especially in the wee hours of the night.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm helping this child fall back asleep. Like, where is the party? Like, where's the marching band? Like, I'd like a croissant in the morning,
Something.
Like, give me something.
Like something. And I found that it was, that was a hard adjustment, I think, because you go from like having your life before, and then you have this beautiful child that you can like be so in gratitude for, but at the same time be so exhausted from. Mm-hmm. And it's such a, like, I would do it again 1,000 million, 100 million times over.
Me
like
too.
Every mom would say that.
Every mom?
Maybe not.
Not every mom. It's okay.
I think so, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you have like amnesia a little bit. Like
no. Someone asked me how my pregnancies were, and I was like, I don't know, they're not so bad. And then I think back, and I'm like, oh, I kept telling people, don't let me do this again.
Right.
Don't ever let me do this again. But it's been 2 years, and I was like, I don't know.
Maybe.
I
remember looking at my like my ex-sister-in-law after I gave birth to my daughter and just being like, why didn't you tell me?
Right, that how like hard
well,
it is.
Can be, but then my son's
labor.
Yeah, how intense it can be because you don't know. I'm very much like I'm a control freak. High 12-step program. I'm like I need to stop being controlling, and so not knowing what it was going to be was hard for me to accept. And the truth is, like my sons, I had twins. I birthed my twins vaginally.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah,
we have it on the list.
Oh yeah, so I birthed them vaginally. That was the most epic delivery ever. My daughters, I wasn't, everyone said, make your plan, go in, and then you got to let go because the health of the baby is the most important thing. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And so, but I remember feeling like I had failed after giving birth to her because I had to get an epidural and I had to do all the things I didn't really want to do. But then my sons, it was like total redemption. I was like, this was the best day of my life. Like, it was
How did it happen?
So my daughter had Pitocin, so I didn't really know what natural labor felt like. I'm the type that like I've miscarried a few times. So like one speck of blood and it's like game over. So my sons were like, I was like 32 weeks. And I mean, had I not looked, I would have missed
the speck of blood.
Tiniest speck of blood. And I saw it and I took all my jewelry off. I packed my bag and I went to the hospital, not really knowing, wasn't having any cramping, stayed overnight. They give you shots to kind of speed up at that point. They have to speed up their like lung development and things like that. And so stayed overnight. I was having contractions, but like you're always kind of having contractions. It's just
at the end, right?
It's just whether or not you dilate with the contractions. So that was what they would always say. Like you could be having contractions. If you're not dilating, it's not labor. So they kept me overnight. The next morning I was like 3 centimeters and I was scheduled for a C-section. And I was like, we're going to do a lot of like letting go and letting God here, our slogans from program. But like, I'm going to do a lot of like, that's not what I wanted. And so I had one doctor in my practice that was willing to try a vaginal delivery because my baby A was head down. So baby B was the one, he was breech.
So breech babies usually don't come out the puss. They usually get...
Mine did. He came out breech. Yeah.
What's he like? I always think, I wonder
He's
like...
backwards.
Is he?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Ted, we call him Tedward. He is literally, he's the best. He came out feet first and he's kind of been a little squirrely ever since.
Really?
Yeah, and they're so different. Anyways, the doctor, I ended up being 8 centimeters. My ex-husband brought me food. I'm like, I got food. I'm like, I'm going to throw up. And they're like, we're going to go get the doctor. Cause I was like, not even feeling anything. But she's like, I'm going to go get the doctor. I was like transitioning in labor.
Wait, just 3 centimeters?
No, 8. I had moved from 3 to 8 in like 2 hours.
Oh my God.
So they say it happens fast. They always joke that it falls out. They're like, it's not really like that, but it happened really quickly. And then I did get an epidural because the doctor who was willing to do the vaginal delivery was on call. He ended up staying. He was like epic. Like he was like, I will cancel my afternoon for you. Cause he's like, if not, you will end up in a C-section because no one else is doing this delivery.
I mean, it takes like a really brave guy. I don't know, brave or like confident. It takes
experience. So they don't like the younger doctors. There was a woman that was on call that was younger, this amazing obstetrician, but she said she wanted to attend my delivery. She goes, because if you haven't witnessed it in person, I would never attempt that and put a baby at risk.
Right.
So no one's seeing that. So my doctor, Dr. DeFilippis, he was like the shit. I bought him like Air Max after as a thank you gift. I was like, you're awesome. He had done it before and he knew we had a whole plan and we carried it out to a T and they were born 5 minutes apart. I remember being like, and I couldn't go to the OR until I was 10 centimeters dilated. So I'm 10 centimeters dilated going, if you don't get me on that fucking gurney right now, I'm delivering him in the hallway and we're going to be in trouble. So it was I think I left my labor room at like 6:19 and my son Tommy was born at like 6:24. I was like, get me on the fucking table. But like I had an epidural. I'm not sure that it even took because I was still like mobile. But it was, and then Teddy was feet first. So he said he had learned in obstetric school, if you can get one foot out, the other follows. And so he was born feet first, sweet love.
They're very flexible at that. You know, so just
Yeah, I mean, he was good. So everything was, it's like keeping that like I was, not like, I mean, you don't know what to expect when you don't have a kid, but, just being open-minded to like, if I had to have had a C-section, that's what I
mean, I was born via C-section. So was my husband. So were my two siblings. So were his two siblings.
Yeah.
Like if it
were.
Yeah.
Did you birth? No, you
Oh,
kids.
no, I had two vaginal.
Did you do home? No.
No, I loved being in labor.
Really?
Yeah, I did love being in labor. It's like a not that, yeah, it's.
Well, it's like a super, you're like, shit, I just birthed a human.
Well, the rush right after, I mean, it's epic.
I would do that. Yeah, I enjoyed that part.
I mean, so my son, I had like, I didn't know that this was possible, but like my water broke like 2 days before, but it was just like sort of leaking, and I thought I was peeing in my pants, and I had never been.
You're like, I just didn't even think twice.
I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?
That's how my daughter was.
Oh, really?
Same.
So then I had to get Pitocin.
Yep, me too. And it was, it's like a, ugh.
I didn't mind.
Did you get an epidural?
I got an epidural.
So see, I didn't at first. I would have.
Right, because my doula at the time, and I didn't love my doulas. They were the same.
Don't tell them. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They weren't great with the breastfeeding. So
okay.
Which was unfortunate. But at the time, and they were a pair, and one of them was very loving. You
didn't know who was showing up.
Yeah, one of them was very loving. And with my son, she was like, well, you're going to have to get the epidural at some point. Like, why are we going to suffer, And I thought, oh, that's very loving. But I like hated myself because I had all this indoctrination and all this mumbo jumbo. But the experience itself was just like transcendent. A human being. From inside my body to outside my body.
It's incredible.
Like, it's really incredible.
If you think about it. I don't know how women like I'm like in awe of home birth. I would have never made it there because I gave birth to my daughter at 36 weeks and my twin. You can't do it before 37. But I'm like, what badass woman? Because I would be like a baby about it. I'd be nervous to like.
I would be nervous. And you know what is the biggest thing for me is like the mess actually. Like
on the floor. Are you a neat freak?
No, it's the opposite. I'm not good at cleaning.
You're like, that's like still from like a year ago. It's
like very bad at cleaning. Like very bad.
Do you have a cleaning lady?
I have a cleaning lady. Oh my God, COVID was so bad for me because like I didn't have a cleaning lady and I just like didn't know how to do it and like keep the people alive and like I don't know how to cook. It was a whole thing.
I don't know how to cook either.
Oh, it's terrible to cook.
I can suck dick really well, but I don't know how to cook.
I'm very good at that too, just for the record.
Listen, I'm not going to cook you dinner, but like.
No, definitely not. It's never going to happen. No.
Although I made Brussels sprouts this morning because I'm like, what? I'm trying really hard because you know what?
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. It's not hard. You could do it. I just don't want to.
Is that what that is?
I don't want to.
You know what I realized actually recently? It's because my mom is a very good cook.
Right.
But I had the experience growing up. I love my parents. Just disclaimer, they're great people.
Aww.
They're human, blah, blah, blah. But I had the experience where I was like, I don't want to be that sort of slave mom. I don't want to. And so I had this block in my head about cooking and cleaning.
Like you didn't want to serve.
Didn't want to serve.
I don't,
my parents are like super religious and every Friday night it was a whole thing that my mom had to do. But like, what is that? Why?
Yeah.
And like the food started tasting bad because like she would resent it. Like,
she hated it.
In love.
Did she work as well?
She worked as well.
Yeah, I know.
It was like
but I think
much.
It's a generational thing. Like that whole, and I struggle in relationships because I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I pay my own bills here, so like I'm not serving you.
No,
so
it's not happening.
It's equal.
You could take me out to dinner just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it just I kind of feel the same way, that mentality of like, yes, sir. Yes, honey, what can I help you with? I really did not. And I felt like I'm like, you should be fucking serving me because I'm over here with these children.
I know.
Like on my tits. My vag is like leaking all over the place.
I made their eyeballs, and how beautiful are their fucking eyeballs?
And so you should be like, I should be your queen.
And I mean, really though.
No, I mean 1,000%. But I think in my personal relationship, I think it was like that for a bit, my ex-husband, but then it was like some resentment because like, well, then I was working too. So I'm like, well, if I can make X amount of dollars an hour and you're not, you're going to be taking care of these children. And that's really hard for men, I think. We didn't have a solid foundation in place and kids like broke that.
Yeah.
So like we should have been in therapy before having kids.
I love that heads up, by the way, for the Mom
that is
Curious.
a massive heads up. Like if your relationship is not solid and you have children, like it's not the old adage, like the kid's going to fix it is like, no.
I mean, my parents have been divorced from each other 3 times over.
Oh.
I mean, like they like love each other and they just, it's not a functioning situation. They're not together anymore, but they're friends. And like, I do think that we were supposed to fix them, and that is too much pressure for a child. Yeah. That's not how things work.
Yeah. And just the fact, like when you're tired, all the cracks like magnify. And so like having a super solid foundation, like I'm on and off dating a guy now and I'm like, he wants a child. And I'm like, we got to be like solid because I'm like, it doesn't get better. It gets harder. You need intimacy. You need trust. You need communication. You need all those things to be in a healthy relationship without kids. And then when the kids come, like you want to continue to weather that storm. Like I felt like the first year is tough for every relationship, even if you have a great foundation. And so like adding that to the mix, and like I had a friend who was in program and him and his wife would have weekly meetings on Sundays and they'd be like, what's good, what's not good in their relationship once they had kids to kind of make sure that they were staying on top of it because the resentment just builds.
There is some like really some poor indoctrination of our boys that I think we might be dismantling now, which is like
we need to, yes.
Yeah, we're doing it. Aren't we doing it?
We are. I mean, I'm trying to raise my sons to like contribute. I think generationally, like we were raised by parents who were still in that very much the gender roles. We're not as much because most women I know work, and it's starting to shift where it's like Sheryl Sandberg lean in, like you got to do half you got to do half the childcare because I'm also contributing half of the income. So like how I'm still expected to contribute half or more than half of the income and do like 90% of the childcare, that doesn't. And I think as our kids get older, it's going to start to kind of even out a little bit because we will see, I don't know how it would, but just it kind of gets further away from those like gender roles that are very traditional.
I'll say that even if you do stay home, like you can't do 90% of the child's care because you're going to just yell at your kids and like tug them about and
you
then feel like shit about yourself. You need a break.
My brother he's divorced too, but he was married and she was a stay-at-home mom and she was a great stay-at-home mom. And but she would need a break. And I'd be like, John, I know that you just worked at the office all day, but like, what do you, like, you got to give Paula, like, she needs a break.
And those are your kids. And you
got to give her, And he would, but like,
It's not him. It's not a individual person.
It's an idea.
Problem. I think it's like a societal shift, even my husband's like, he's such a great guy.
Aww.
And he's trying. It's hard for him. It's hard when I'm like out doing shows or, recording or whatever it is, whatever I'm doing, right? Like if I'm just like, I'm going to go hang out with my friends and it's all on him. He is working all day and I see that there also wasn't a role model for him. And his father's a good guy too. It's not a matter of good or bad. It's just like it's a tough mold to create midway through your life.
Yeah.
We've never seen it really before.
No. I think it's definitely something. And it's like, I'm like, if you have any ideas about shifting it, let us know because I feel like it just kind of continues. I will say with divorce, which like is very common these days. It's like 50% of people are divorced or more. Most states are now really favoring 50-50 custody. Like they don't even, unless someone gives up custody. So I feel like that helps because like I have 50% of my time. Like, and my ex-husband has 50% of the time. So the kids, he's having to, I'm like, schlep through.
But he's figuring it out.
He's going to figure it out, and he's going to figure it out and do it his way and make his choices. And that's, on him. And I think the kids, as they see that, it hopefully will help kind of, pass it on down the line where it's like, men can do it too. And like, because moms are really, I think we innately know because we birth them, or at least even if you don't birth them, if it's a maternal instinct in our lineage of like, our being, we know. I think women are a little bit better at figuring it out, but I'm like, we're still just figuring it out too. So I'm like, with dads, I'm like, well, you just kind of have to struggle through it and figure it out the same way that I did.
It's super vulnerable. And I'm not sure that we're in a culture, and you have 2 boys. I see it even in the way I interact with my son.
Yeah.
We're not comfortable with male vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so how are they going to get comfortable with being vulnerable and not knowing, like, is this the right food? Is this the right temperature? Is this do I have to change the diaper now? I mean, it's hard. This is hard.
And I'm like, mommy will do it. I'm kidding.
Right, because mommy always does it.
Mommy does everything.
Yeah, because we're used to being like in that sort of rattled place. We're used to feeling a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we're not uncomfortable with feeling a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know more about having 50% of your time. Does this make you more productive, actually?
It does, yeah. So when I first started the whole divorce process, I felt like I was like, I can't even imagine not seeing my kids because I raised them. They were my babies, and but then, I look at it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of, in the beginning, we did it a little bit closer. Like there's different custody schedules. So like the one I'm on now, I don't love because I go 5 days without seeing my kids, but it's the best thing. Everything with custody and that is that what's the best interest of the kids. And you don't want them switching back and forth every 5 seconds unless you live right next door.
And you don't?
No, we live 10 minutes away, but still it's a lot to their stuff and all this. But yeah, it's kind of perfect.
I
highly recommend divorce. Yeah, because I can travel. I can
5 days, right?
5 days. And if I need it, we can ask for 7 with or without the kids. You put that in your custody. So it's it really gives you time to regroup because motherhood is full on, right? And even with a partner and 2 parents home, it's you're immersed in it. And I feel like I can breathe, I can just go and chill out in the noise. I'm very, I get really sensory processing. I'm touched out, talked out. I don't want to hear anyone. If you poop one more time, I'm literally the smell. I'm
no, the senses.
Get to the end. Yeah, the senses get really overwhelming, and I'm very triggered by that. I rage sometimes, emotionally. I've never raged at my kids, but I get very upset, and I can go from nothing to what the fuck is happening? You know what I mean? Yeah. When my senses are overstimulated, and children are overstimulating. And so having that break the half the time really helps me to I'm going away this weekend. It's I will, go eat pizza and sleep till 9 and have tons of sex and whatever. It just is you feel like you're pre-life before kids. And then
with kids.
With kids. Fun. So it's the best because then they come back and I get to
love them.
Yeah. I remember a friend of my ex-husband's was no, divorce is amazing because we were kind of scared of it.
You're not the only one I know who's having a great time. Yeah, it's really good.
And I think as we get further into it, we did not have a nice beginning of our divorce. And so, but now that we're everything's signed, money's been exchanged, all that, it seems to be calming down a bit. And I think then you have this opportunity to really co-parent and be hey, let's do this. And he just came to my daughter's birthday party, which was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to be that couple that can't walk your kid down the aisle.
You want to be friends.
20
what's
years
the point?
later.
I just didn't want to have sex with you anymore. But
these people we made.
But these little people are the best thing in both of our lives. And it would behoove us to work together and make them, and we've always aligned, even when it was at its worst, we've never undermined each other as parents. It's always been if you don't respect your father, if you don't, we're very much aligned on that, which is very good because we never wanted them to overtake the Capitol. So Like, listen, kids.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Dad and I are on the same page here because I've really enjoyed having the freedom to travel and, just relax.
Yeah.
Go to spas and things like that.
Oh my God, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, it's good.
And you have the model of a single mother. Like, you know what that's like. You know that it's like a gift for your children.
Yeah.
That they get a mom that's whole and fully present. You write so much about your mom.
I know. Oh God, you're gonna make me cry.
Oh, she's just so present in your work. And
well, she was, so with her, it's funny because until she was like diagnosed as terminal, like we didn't have the best relationship, and I didn't really see her as like, but like, you know how it's like, what was mom? You ever see those memes? It's like, my mom was always like running back in the house and like, what was she doing? And it's like, she was doing everything. And it's like, I didn't really see my mom, A, until like she was dying. And then B, I'm now going through it. Like, I see how hard it is to raise kids, even with a partner. And she somehow on a teacher's salary, like gave us everything. And my friends who struggle with like their own, I'm not here being like, do whatever, parents suck. Like the last time I saw her before she died, she like spilled her yogurt all over the floor. And I was like, what the fuck? You have the same reactions, but you see them because she was just a human doing her best. Yeah. My dad, the same. He was an alcoholic. And it's like, he was never around and he couldn't be there for me. And you see them as people and it helps to like humanize. It's made me like a more compassionate person. Yeah. Because I was so judgmental for so many years. Like
of them.
Yeah. Like, why didn't you, like my mom, like, why didn't you, she was always so neurotic, but like I'm neurotic. Like I have the same things because some days I feel like I'm barely holding everything it's like a house of cards. I'm like, if one of these things falls, like I'm just gonna literally like lay on the floor and I'm done. Like I just can't. Yeah. And not literally, but like as a mom, it gets intense trying to manage kids, career, show up, and I always
just your own mental health. I mean, for me, I don't know, for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like it's hard because you don't have that. And so seeing her and just, I've had so many realizations like after her death, which is hard because, and I obviously work 12-step program. I made amends to both of my parents before they died, which was amazing. And I'm very grateful that I did that because I was estranged from my dad for like 6 years. And I just see them more wholly. And, in her way, she loved me. In her way, it might not have been what I needed. It might not have been what I wanted, but she never left me and my brother. She did everything for us. And this is probably the hardest thing, but this really describes motherhood to me. We were trying to get her to accept hospice. They told me she had like 21 days, like a couple weeks to live, like a couple weeks. And she first said she would take hospice. And then they said then she said, no, they go through the stages of dying. And she said, no, they're going to let me start chemo again. Like she was lying to everyone saying she was going to start chemo. So they do this like goals of care meeting with hospice and you sit around a table and it's basically to get the person who's dying to understand that you're going to die anyways. It's just how comfortable you're going to be. So, and the woman asked her, what are you afraid of? And she said, leaving my children. And like, it just was so present for me because I feel the same way. Like I think of parents that have like handicapped kids and they're going to leave their kids behind, or not handicapped kids. Like I can't imagine leaving the world and leaving my little people here. And, the woman looked at her and she said, Elaine, rarely do we have these meetings with all of the children present and grandchildren running around. Like you've done your job. You can go. But like, it's just, that was so poignant for me because it is like that's my whole life. I really don't care. Like I love diamonds and I love diamonds and nice things and luxury, but like I would give all of it up to be a mom. And it's like, it's just the most amazing thing. And I have to try to remember that, because in those moments when I have those really strong feelings of like gratitude and, you know, just those very real moments of life, that's really, I think, how most parents feel and about their children, even though we are struggling with our own mental issues or, you know, shortcomings as people and navigating it, but it's all in there. And my goal for my children is to make sure that they know that, because it's like when she said that in that moment, it was almost like I'd be like, you've basically like been so hard on me my whole life. So I'm glad that you're like saying that now. I'm
glad she said it out loud and you didn't have to like go back and decipher
I was like, really?
all the
That's
codes.
So strange. But you know, because it doesn't always show up like that. And my goal with my children is to like, I'm probably like overdoing it. Like, I hope that they have like a work ethic, because I'm like, like all over them. I'm obsessed with my children. But, you know, she always was tough on me. But she has been a role model, because, you know, she just didn't always have the means to, you know, she just made it. I never lacked for anything. Like, I look back, I'm like, how did you do that? Like, holidays, and we traveled abroad, like to South America for a month. Like, how do you, yeah, like she would take us, and it's really my inspiration with my kids to do things. Like, I do things that like stress me out. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take a road trip by myself with 3 kids.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And
by
you
the
did
end,
it.
I'm like, I do. Yeah. I'm going to start like traveling with them probably in another like year.
I just want to say, just on the note of your mom, like, you just, you know, we're just better in every generation, and it's so clear with you, you know, like you're really honoring her memory in such a real way, and then mentoring other mothers.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, she's so present. Like, I don't, you know, I know like her physical body's not here, but it's so her presence, like her. Yeah. Sorry, she was hard on you.
Well, they all are, but then it's like, I mean, you know, I think she just struggled with her own things, but, you know, just my thing with people now is like, I speak about it because I know that we had a challenging relationship before she was terminal. And then like, as soon as she was terminal, it was very different. We said things like, I have texts from her, like saying like, what a wonderful mother I was, which she never would have said before that.
Wow.
You know, just telling me the things. And it's like, I always try to encourage, and I know that they're tough. Like, relationships are tough. Parental relationships can be very complex. But to try to find a way to say the thing, express the emotion, the gratitude, even when it's not necessarily reciprocated. Because if I had not made amends to my parents, if I had not had that time with my mom, I think I would be struggling tremendously now, because you do have all these, like, hindsight's 2020, right? It's like, I have all these revelations about who she was as a woman and a mother, and what a badass she was, you know?
Really though.
Yeah. And then, but like, and you can't really tell her, like, I mean, I talk to her, and I do feel her presence. Like, I'm very spiritual. I'm very into signs. I have such crazy, you know, story. Actually, today I went, just before I was down here, I went and got Starbucks, and my birth name is Anne Elaine. Well, her first name was Elaine, and just downstairs they called out my coffee and they're like, Elaine. And it's just like the little tiny things where you're like, hey mom, like, you know, it's just those little things that kind of keep me present, that she's here and she's with me, and, you know, and then just keeping her, using it as an experience to help other parents or people understand the importance of kind of like working through those relationships that are worth working through.
I find parenthood to be like really healing, actually. I mean, if we let it, it can be also really triggering. Like, you know,
I think
like,
it triggers and then you heal.
Well, if you're open to it.
Right, of course.
You know, like, you're like, why am I so triggered by all these sounds? Or why am I so triggered by, I mean, my son would like have all these pee accidents, and I was so triggered by it. Why am I so triggered by it? Yeah. You know, how was I parented? You know, when I had an accident, when I was missing the mark, I was not gently parented. Yeah. You know, and so like I'm being asked by my own psyche to like deal with it.
Yeah.
you know, and I deal with it, and I can also see now, oh, I'm on both ends. I am the mommy and I'm the baby.
Oh yeah. Like it forces you to really heal that stuff. And I think that's what can feel for some parents, like can show up as postpartum depression, can show up as, I remember right after my daughter was born, I'm like meticulous. Like I don't need to unpack that here, why I am, but like I'm control a lot of things to feel safe. And like the like slip cover on her like Pottery Barn rocker was like not steamed. And I mean, it like set me into like my life's falling apart. What have I done? My tits, I have breast milk everywhere. Like, what am I doing? Those are the moments though, that then if you're open to healing, I think lead to expansion, because I'm like, why am I triggered that my son can't get his pants up?
Right.
Like put your dick, like, pull it up. Like, do you need, and then it's like, I'll say
why
things.
am I? And then you say it out loud and you're like, oh, this has nothing to do with you, sweetie.
Yeah,
like,
nothing.
Like, have a great day and I'm going to go.
And I make amends to my kids all the time.
Yeah, me too.
I constantly pull them aside and say, and really look them in the eye and say, you know, you know how I kind of got upset. I said, I was just frustrated. It has nothing to do with you. And even when I'm frustrated with you, I still love you. And just to be able to like acknowledge my, you know, shortcomings to them, because I do a lot of it is my shit. You know, they're just kids and they're great kids. And sometimes, you know, you have a bad day or you're tired or something, you know, happens. Like I was going through, as I'm raising kids, like the loss of my dad. Like yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of my dad's death. Like loss of my dad, loss of my mom, loss of my marriage, loss of my aunt, loss of my grandmother, loss of my dad's brother. Like it was in like, and then I'm raising little people without any help. And now I get triggered because I'm like, even in those moments, like when I'm in an emergency, like my daughter had to go to the emergency room. It's like, I don't even live near anyone that is family, but then like most of my family died. So it's like, I'm so triggered in it, but it's enabled me to really grow and not live in, like I just said at meeting last night, like this isn't happening to me. It's kind of happening around me. And I have to choose how if I looked at it like, oh, all these people passed away, like I have to still show up and be the best version of myself. I think one thing in our generation, and one thing I find super helpful is like, and I always tell parents with like sleep, like it's not a whole, like don't look at it as like a whole day and like I did good or I did bad. Like you can start again in any moment. And just because I fucked up 5 minutes ago and like yelled because like you came too close to the stove and I'm really just terrified you're going to get hurt, but somehow I lashed out at you verbally and I don't want to show up like that, you know?
I could not relate more. Like with crossing the street.
Yes.
Right?
It's like neurotic. I'm like, what? And then you're like, the next thing you're like,
I didn't mean to scare you. I feel scared.
Yeah, right. So, but it's like, but you can start again. And like, that's the thing I think is important, is that you can recognize that like, I did screw this up in this moment. And like, I'm not being like, you know, I don't even know what type of parenting I would call it, because I'm not being like, it's not like they're in control, but like I still owe an amends to these little people.
It's not a matter of control. I mean, we're in a relationship.
But I think our parents wouldn't
have
admitted
my parents
shit.
Would never.
Nothing.
Would never.
They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
they would yell at me.
Yep.
And then they would yank me.
And then they would justify it.
Maybe they'd hit me. I mean, they would, and then they'd justify it. And then I'd cry. And then they'd tell me how shitty I am, that I was crying.
Yep. The whole thing. And I think in our generation, it's like.
And then they'd be confused why I wouldn't tell them about a boy I had a crush on.
Or why I was dating a 23-year-old when I was 16.
Drunk. I mean, I'm afraid of you. That's why I was afraid of them. Yeah. I had good reason to be afraid.
Yeah. And I think that in this, like, we are having the opportunity really to like, I mean, every generation does, but like raise the future of kids. And like, we are more aware.
Evolved.
It is. And I do feel like grateful. And a lot of that for me, like I know other things work. I did therapy too, but like for me, my 12-step program like saved my life, because I would have been, you know, I don't know. I just would have been, I've never like wouldn't have hit my kids, but like I definitely think I would have been a little bit different, not as like forgiving, not as able to own my own shit. Like,
I mean, I definitely would have been yelling. Also just like the way my parents and most parents treat little bodies just so disrespectful. I mean, I certainly, if I'm not in check, I could be like yanking the sweatshirt off. Come on, let's do that. You know, like it's very easy to manipulate little bodies.
Right.
I'm bigger than them. I'm stronger than them. Like I'm on a time crunch, and if I'm not in check, I have to be really careful about that. It's not hitting, certainly not. But
you get like frustrated and you're like,
nice.
Because like I look at my daughter, like they're all different, you know, like my daughter really just wants to be heard. And sometimes just acknowledging, like that's what I missed as a child. Like I just wanted someone to be like, I see that you're upset and it's okay. Or I feel that way too sometimes. That's all they want. And I don't like, I find a good balance with it of not being too, I mean, I'm also a strict mom because like if I didn't have a routine, I would be dead.
I'd be in a gutter.
I would definitely be in the gutter.
Yeah.
But
you need a routine. You need to be the strong leader.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
So we only have a few minutes.
Oh my God, how'd that happen?
I know. I have a question about twins. Maybe we get into that first.
Yes.
Okay, so you have twins, right? Now you have two bodies at the same time, right? Same birthday, same first day of school, same everything. How do you manage, like, spiritually, financially, like, just time, physical time wise? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah. So with twins, I feel like I remember asking my sister and my brother has twins, and I remember asking my sister-in-law. My dad was a fraternal twin. The day my dad died, December 6th, 4 years ago, he is the day I had my ultrasound and found out I was having twins. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So my brother, I remember asking his wife, like in the beginning, like, what did you do? And she would be like, it was kind of a blur. Like you definitely go into this like autopilot. Everything needs to be organized. Like I'm a very organized person, but like it's all the prep. Like you have to prep, and parenthood for me is a prep anyways. Like I need lunch boxes out the night before. Everything is like, how am I setting myself up to like streamline this process? But I think with twins, like you just figure it out. Like it's like motherhood. It really is like you figure it out. Like whether the learning curve is 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 0 to 2, 0 to 3. Like some people have triplets, you know? And you just have to find a system that works. And for me, it was struggling through that. I actually did not want help in the beginning because with twins, everyone's like, let me come over. But the truth is that lasts for about 1 month. And then unless you have this mother that's like somehow still in her late 50s and can still like do twins, like you're not having that constant help. Spouses have to go back to work.
Right.
So I was like, no, I need to figure this out and suffer through this. In the early days, tandem feeding, and you get creative, like, you know, and then as far as like allotting time, like my boys had very different needs. My Teddy breech boy, been a little squirrely since then, but he's like, I thought he was on the spectrum for like 6 months. He was very like, but he's not at all. But he was a little bit higher needs. He had sensory processing disorder as a kid. So like he always, and they both had like different wake times, but like with twins, you're putting them down at the same time, you're feeding at the same time. So Tommy would be sleepy, have to put them down. Teddy's up 45 minutes later because he was too early for him.
Wow.
So then I would be constantly helping Teddy, but I really just ping-ponged between them to meet their needs as best as I could. I have this like PDF in my like online program about multiples. It's like someone's always crying and sometimes that's you, because like with multiples, because I'm not a fan of children crying, but with multiples, like I only have like my legs would be across, like the change pad was near the crib so that like my legs, I got to tend to the one in the crib and my legs on top of the change pad to make sure this one's not falling. I mean, you get really creative. I lived on the floor feeding them for a year.
Where was Frankie?
She's the queen. I have this picture of me on the floor feeding my twins. I have an earpiece in, my friend took it, an earpiece in my ear on a call. My daughter has like a paper crown on her head. My house is like trashed for me. It probably was not trashed at all, but like
I think I've seen this picture and it wasn't trashed.
It wasn't, but like the dog, but for me, that was like triggering for me. I'm like, there's shit everywhere. The dog's in the photo, and it's just, I would just lock the doors and be like, I gotta figure this out. But I used to get in my car and be like, are all the kids in the car? Okay, 1, 2, like, cause you're so tired, but you just get through it. And like, I would think about
amazing.
A lot of my mom, like a piece of mom advice was like, when I was up with Frankie And I was miserable in the night. You know, I only survived like 8 weeks without sleep. I don't know how people do it.
You don't know how people do it for 2+ years. I wonder, yeah.
And I remember thinking, I had a friend that lost a baby like at 36 weeks, like full term. Oh. And I would think of her because I would be like, it is that gratitude. It sounds so cheesy and cliche, but I would be like, okay, like Julie would have given anything to be up right now with her baby. And that really got me through. And then I would think of like triplet moms because I was like, how on earth, you know, if they're doing it, I'm doing it. And it's a really good metaphor for life because like someone out there is always kind of has a worse situation or a better situation. So I just tried to lean into that. It really helped me to get through. But it was, you know, one day at a time.
You're amazing. You're like actually
Thank
amazing.
You.
We need to know about the therapeutic third.
Okay. So this is kind of a new thing. But so I'm finally, after everything I went through with my divorce, I finally got myself into like grief counseling because I didn't think I had to do anything with my grief of my parents. I thought, oh, I'm just going to like time, you know, but there are things that you can do. And this is also gonna make me cry, but one of the things
crying is okay. This is
I love crying. It's
crying is so good for you, really.
My lips get big when I cry, so that's so positive. Pretty. I'm like,
I'm super into it, so whatever.
No, I love crying, but so the therapeutic third is this idea in when you grieve that the therapeutic third's like the person that's gonna like get down in your hole with you and like eat food out of the trash can, like meaning like you're in a bad place, like Danielle, I'm coming over, we're just gonna sit here in your hole and you can ugly cry. And there are other types of people that are there to help you through grieving. Like one of them is like, you know, the friend that's like, oh, I've been through this, let me tell you what worked for me. And then the other one is like, could I bring you like dinner? You know, but different types. The therapeutic third is really like your best friend. What was hard for me in my grieving is that as everyone died, like I lost my therapeutic thirds. So like my mom was my therapeutic third and then she died. And then my aunt, my dad's sister, just passed, like it's almost a year, and she was like my therapeutic third. So my best friends live in LA, you know, everyone's all over. So where I lived, I didn't really have that like therapeutic third that was going to like nurture me. And even though I can nurture myself, like sometimes I just want a hug, sometimes I just want someone, but I kind of got used to not having it because that's just was my reality. And it was COVID. So like no one's coming over. Like I quarantined alone. And you know, with my kids would go back and forth, but I was alone. I probably would have chose to do it alone again. But so I wanted to create, so my cousin, whose mom is the one that passed, my aunt, my dad's sister, we wanted to create a space that people could connect. Like I don't have a peer group of people who have lost both of their parents. You know, young mothers don't have peer, like someone's lost a child, cancer. Like there's no peer group, meaning in your immediate area, are you going to find someone down the street? Probably not. There's probably someone in England or Australia that is dealing with what you're going through. And what I learned through like my grief counseling, I'm doing a group where I live, is that like sometimes just hearing, like if I want to tie it into like the gratitude that I was talking about with, my children and how I would get through those tough moments, sometimes with grief, like hearing other people's stories, like kind of puts it into perspective. Like, because like I couldn't imagine losing a child. And like there's 2 women in my grief group that like their kids were murdered. And I'm like, I can't even, and it doesn't make it better for me, but I wanted to create a space for people to do something with their grief, whether that's connecting with other people or if it's courses. Like we're kind of in the beginning stages of it. And like what I have learned is that like it's different for everyone, and just having like that peer people that understand and say like, I know what it's like to like raise kids without a mom. Like there's not many people that can say that. So it's like kind of for me as well. And I'm just in that like full feedings keeps me very busy. So I'm like, even I was driving here today going, am I insane that I'm like doing another project? But I feel like it's something that's needed in the world, because there isn't, like you go online, I'm like, there's nothing, even like my grief group that I'm in at home, it's very small. it's like there's got to be a way to kind of connect people. And that's, I think that there's a lot of things about the internet and like social media that I don't love, but one of the benefits is connecting people. And I want to do that like with grief. I'm doing birth and I'm doing death.
Well, yeah, our first conversation on the podcast was similar about birth and death. And I think like this mother experience, like it's so it's epic, really epic. And so we have to wrap our heads around life. Inevitably, life includes death.
Yeah.
And so I think, when we talk about the Mom Curious crowd, who I adore and admire and honor, what we're saying is you can hold this.
Yeah.
This is not too big for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to smack you in the face right when you right when you become a mother. We could tell you, like, it's different from an experiential level, but we have experience and we're happy to share it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a shock to you.
No. And it's like, I mean, it goes back to like, I would do it 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
you're just so good at it.
I know, but so you know what my fear is about having more, and this might be something to add to the Mom Curious community, but I raised my kids, right? So I was there. I breastfed. I did the late night feedings. This baby, like if I had another one, I have a different business now. Like I don't know that I could take that time, and that kind of bums me out. I don't want my kid. I'm not interested in like, I have nannies. Like I have people that help me. Thank God. I found the most amazing people in my life. But even that, you still have that mom guilt. Like I go to work all day and I'm like, and I don't miss stuff. Like, right. Like I don't miss, like I do pick up, I do drop off, I make time, I do activities, all that stuff. But like, sometimes that mom guilt creeps in and I'm like, oh, like I hate that. Like I'm upstairs in my room right now where I was locked for basically the entirety of COVID with a nanny downstairs with my kids. I hate that right now because I love the break, but I love working because that really fulfills me, but I also don't want to miss those moments. So it's like that pull. And I just sometimes, question like, would I be able to balance it enough with another child at this point in my career, which I think
you can do anything. I mean, this conversation has not proven that. I think you could literally do anything you want to do.
Oh, thank you.
If this person is trying to come through you. And here's my permission slip to just do whatever the fuck you want.
I know. My psychic's like, there's one more coming, a little girl.
I mean, and if that is the case, like, and I say this to the Mom Curious and the moms, oh my God.
Let
it happen the way it's supposed to happen. If this person wants to come as the fourth child in this new arrangement and mom works and she's empowered and she's happy and she's healing, what a blessing.
And you figure it out. Like you do. I just speak of my fears because
you're like, they're
but
real.
Like you do figure out how to, balance, and it might look different every day, but you do. And it's amazing. Motherhood's the best things ever happened to me.
Really?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Where can our friends find you?
So at Full Feedings on Instagram.
It's a great community.
Fullfeedings.com. And then The Therapeutic Third on Instagram and thetherapeuticthird.com. So that's coming. Because the key is like put out good, I don't want to rush. Like Full Feedings took a while to like really get a perfected, like make sure this works so that I'm putting out good content,
It is really
and not
good.
just garbage.
Well, take your time.
I'm going to.
Yeah, I know you will. I love you. I thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. I've been your host, Daniela Rabbani. Special thanks to executive producer Laura Lucetti. For more episodes, make sure to follow Mom Curious, available on all podcast platforms. Thanks.